This lesson is on graphing inequalities. So let's start off by first reviewing the different inequality symbols. So this symbol means less than. And when we graph the less than symbol, we're going to use what we call an open circle. So it's a circle that's not shaded all the way in. One way to remember that this symbol means less than is if you look at the letter L forms the less than symbol. So if you take an L, and I have my students make an L with their left hand, and then close it, and you will get the less than symbol. So if you can remember what the less than symbol is, then the other one is obviously the greater than symbol. And this one also is graphed with an open circle. When you put a line underneath the inequality, then that makes it less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. And when we graph less than or equal to inequalities, we use a solid circle. So if it has the line underneath it, meaning or equal to, then we use a solid circle. If it doesn't have the or equal to line under it, then it's an open circle. And then the last one here, this one would be greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. So hopefully, if you're graphing inequalities, you've already been introduced to these symbols and used them before. So this should just be a review. All right, so let's get into the graphing piece then. So I have several examples here for you. This first one says x is greater than 2. So since there's not an or equal to, a line underneath it, we're going to graph this using an open circle. So what I'm going to do is go to 2 on a number line, and I'm going to put an open circle there. A lot of times my students want to put the circle above the line, but you should really put it on the line. And so x can be any value that's greater than 2. So where are the values that are greater than 2? Are they to the right or are they to the left? Well, obviously, if you look at the number line, the values to the right are all greater than 2. So to show the solution to this inequality, we shade in the right side of the circle. So this is saying, when you look at this graph, x is any value that's greater than 2. So the shading shows what values x could be. And the open circle tells you that x can't be 2. X has to be greater than 2. It could be 2.1, that's greater than 2, but it can't be 2 because 2 is not greater than 2. All right, so let's look at this one. X is less than negative 4. Okay, so again, I'm going to use an open circle here because there's not an or equal to line here. It says x is less than negative 4. So where are the values that are less than negative 4? They're to the left. So we're going to shade to the left. And again, this means x could be any of these shaded values. So anything to the left of negative 4, but not including negative 4, because it's not or equal to. All right, so now we're going to look at x is less than or equal to negative 3. So now we're going to switch to a solid circle because x can be equal to negative 3. It's either less than or it's equal to negative 3. So again, the values that are less than negative 3 are to the left. So we're going to shade to the left. All right, and then this one, x is greater than or equal to 5. So again, a closed circle at 5. And then x is greater than 5. So where are the values that are greater than 5? They're to the right. So we shade to the right. So there is a shortcut trick here. I'll point this out to you. If you think of the inequality symbol as an arrow, it's pointing which way to shade. So it's pointing to the right, I shade to the right. It's pointing to the left, I shade to the left. It's pointing to the left, shade to the left. It's pointing to the right, I shaded to the right. But you have to be careful with that. I'm about to show you why. All right, so let's look at this one. The variable is now on the right side of the inequality. So this says that negative 2 is less than or equal to x. Negative 2 is less than or equal to x. So let's go ahead and put our closed circle at negative 2. Again, it's closed because it's or equal to. And so here's the way to think about this. So I'm in Florida, and in Florida, we think of this as an alligator's mouth. And the alligator always wants to eat what's bigger. And so if the alligator is eating the x, that means x is bigger than -2. Otherwise, the alligator would eat the -2. So where are the values that are bigger? They're to the right. So x is bigger than -2 or equal to, so we shade to the right. So now look, the arrow was pointing to the left, but we shaded to the right. So here's the trick. The arrow trick works as long as the x or the variable is on the left side. If the variable is on the right side, then you shade in the opposite way that the arrow is pointing. So the arrow pointed to the left, I shaded to the right. Okay, so let's look at this one. 3 is greater than x. So this is an open circle at 3. All right, the alligator is eating the 3. So that means the 3 is bigger than the x. Or in other words, the x is smaller than the 3. So if x is smaller than 3, where are the values that are smaller than 3? They're to the left. So we're going to shade to the left. And again, what we're showing are all the values that x could be. Again, look, the arrow is pointing to the right, but the variable's on the right side, so I shade the opposite way. -4 is greater than or equal to x. So we got a closed circle at -4. The alligator's eating the -4. That means x must be smaller than the -4. So if x is smaller than -4, those numbers are to the left. And again, the variable's on the right side, the arrow's pointing to the right, so I shaded to the left. So when the variable's on the right side, the arrow points in the opposite direction that you shade. All right, and last one here. This is an open circle at 5. 5 is less than x. Where the alligator's eating the x, that means x is bigger than 5. So where the values that are bigger than 5, they're to the right. And again, the arrow is pointing to the left, but the variable's on the right side, so I shade the opposite way. All right, so let's look at one more type of problem you might be asked to do here. So this one, they're giving you a graph, and they're asking you to write the inequality that's represented by that. So this is really pretty simple. You can use any variable you want. I'll stick with what we've been doing, and I'll use an x, and the number that's circled is a 5. And it's an open circle, so I know there's not going to be a line underneath it. It's not an or equal to. So now I just got to decide, is x greater than 5 or less than 5? So if I put x on the left, then I can use the arrow trick. So it's shaded to the right, so my arrow should point to the right. Or in other words, x is greater than 5, where the values that are greater than 5, they're to the right. So look at this one. We've got x and 0. This is a solid circle, so I'm going to go ahead and put the line underneath it because I know it's or equal to, and I don't want to forget that. Shading is to the left, so I make my arrow point to the left. This says x is less than or equal to 0. The values that are less than 0 are to the left. That's why it's shaded to the left. And then I'm going through these pretty quick, so if you just want to back it up and listen again, please do. That's the advantage of the videos. So I have x and -4. I can learn to write. It's an open circle, so there's not a line underneath it. Shaded to the left, so my arrow is going to point to the left. X is less than -4. That's the values to the left of -4. And then the last one here, so I have my x and I have -8. It's a solid circle, so let's go ahead and put the line so we don't forget. It's or equal to, shaded to the right, so I make my arrow point to the right. X is greater than or equal to -8. The values that are greater than -8 are to the right, so that makes sense. All right, so I hope you found this useful. If so, please give it a like and a subscribe, and until next time.